everyone. Welcome to the Euro Cup 3. We are at Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands, experiencing the fourth round of the season. We are living a very high intense round. We had a first race in the morning. We are starting now, or we'll start in just a few minutes, the second race. Yesterday we had the qualifying session number 1, where it was a very strong Esteban Mozon who took the first row of the grid and of course winning the first race. Right now it's going to be Barry Boya, the one who will start in the first position, in pole position, and let's see what is happening. The standings are very tight, so that means that the battles on the track are going to be very intense. In the morning we had totally fully wet races, but right now it's going to be totally different because the track is already dry, so the strategy is going to be totally different for the drivers and teams. So let's see what is happening. It's very windy today. It's quite cold, but anyways, we are going to experience very amazing races. I really hope you enjoy in the other part of the screen. Now it's time for my colleague of the races.
Gracias, Laura. It's great to hear from everybody getting themselves ready for the start of the second race of the day here at the Circuit Zandvoort. What a difference a few hours makes. It was very wet and very slippery this morning, but as you can see, the track has dried out beautifully, ready for the second race of the weekend. I'm Jake Sanson. Great to see you once again, folks. You're in for another brilliant battle, especially considering that the grid for this race is very different to the one that we saw for the previous encounter. Esteban Masson is not on pole position this time. On this occasion, it goes the way of the other main contender in the championship. Mari Boya has put himself into a strong position. The Spanish youngster continuing his fantastic top flight through the world of single-seaters, dovetailing his Euro Cup 3 campaign, of course, with his run in the FIA Formula 3 Championship on both categories. He, of course, races with the Campos racing team. It'll be fascinating to see what he can do as he gets himself ready for the start of the battles in front of us. The pit lane is open, the cars are making their way to the grid, and it'll be just a few short minutes' time that we go racing for this one. As a result of what happened in the morning's race, there's already been some exciting battles to come into the afternoon's session. What we are going to get to see is a new championship leader emerge next time, most likely, because on this occasion Esteban Masson has pulled away to the tune of 30 points to Mari Boya, which means that even if the Spaniard were to win this race and Esteban Masson would not score, then the championship lead would be cut to 5 points, but Esteban Masson would finish the first half of the season up in front. He's definitely had a very solid race weekend of it so far. Mari Boya taking the second pole position. Looks as though there are problems elsewhere, though, as the recovery crews are trying to get one of the MP Motorsport cars moving. Not entirely sure which one it is, but certainly there's some damage going on with that particular car. There is a yellow flag at the end of turn 1. Not entirely sure which car that is that we are currently under yellow flags for, but certainly a bit of a difficulty there for one of the MP Motorsport cars, and it looks as though there is some slight damage to that rear wing. What it does mean, though, is that we may only get 17 cars on the starting grid instead of the proposed 18. So it's definite difficulties for the competitors. As we know, or if you don't know, if I have not watched the first race this morning, it is a 30-minute race plus the additional lap, and the contenders are obviously gearing up ready for the start of this one. On the front row of the grid, the man who was the pole position sitter and race 1 winner this morning, Esteban Masson of France, for the Campos racing team, did a fantastic job in the race this morning, considering, yes, he did start from pole position, but he actually dropped it when the safety car pulled in after the first 3 laps behind the safety car, dropped it at the first corner, rejoined in 7th place, and on the second restart he went from 7th to 3rd in half a lap, and then managed to charge his way through for the victory. But there's still plenty more to do. We're keeping an eye on the MP Motorsport driver Bruno Del Pino, the rookie, has been very strong over the course of this weekend. He was second in qualifying for race 1, third in qualifying for race 2, so very fast over one lap. He's rather hoping that he doesn't have to worry too much about the wet conditions that he did in race 1, and hopefully he can continue that very fast pace of his going into the second encounter. There is his teammate, Sebastian Øgaard, the Danish driver. Did a fabulous job in the first race of the day, actually took the lead on the third start. So having stolen the lead away from his young teammate Bruno Del Pino on the second return to the green flag conditions after the safety car, he's been able to work his way further forward in fine style. But Mari Boya versus Esteban Masson on the front row of the grid is definitely the two main championship contenders battling away to the first corner. And it doesn't matter which driver wins this race, no matter what happens, Esteban Masson is going to be the championship leader. And the minimum points lead he can take from this is 5 points. But he currently leads by 30. 25 of points, of course, available for the race victory. We just saw briefly there Jose Garfias. And now we're seeing Javier Sagrera for the all-new Palou Motorsport team. So obviously this is their first season of competition. And Alex Palou, who was the IndyCar Series champion in 2021. He did a brilliant performance. He is actually also, of course, the reserve driver for the McLaren Formula 1 team this year, Alex Palou. On the inset, you can also see Taz Interfivazak, the Thai driver, who managed to work his way forward into third position in the earlier race. And Tazanapol Interfivazak is never really far away from the front end of a field in the feeder series campaigns. Daniel Nogales, who is part of the DriveX racing team. He made his debut at Monza last time out. Did a fair job, got himself some decent points in Monza, and is hoping to repeat the feat here in Zandvoort. So as the cars are finishing off and getting themselves into their positions on the starting grid, the grid is now being cleared, which means we are going to go racing very quickly indeed. So the contenders are gearing themselves up ready for an exciting showcase, and it's obviously a very important one now for the drivers out on the circuit. It's been a very busy weekend of racing here at Zandvoort. We've just had the Summer Trophy and the Marcel Albers Memorial taking place, and now we get the second race of the Euro Cup Trophy getting ourselves underway. So there is Francesco Braschi, the man who won the first race of the season at Spa-Francorchamps and had a nightmare first race this morning when he was one of the three drivers to miscalculate on the brakes into Tarzan and threw the car into the gravel trap at the first turn. And unfortunately, he was the reason we had the first non-start safety car, as it were, the second safety car period. The formation lap begins, and now the drivers are making their way around the course. So obviously, once again, it is about heating the tyres and brakes to optimum temperature. The last thing you want is to have cold brakes and tyres going into Tarzan for the first time. It is a very fast start, and then into that long sweeping hairpin. And then the drivers start the climb through the various undulation changes of the course, through the carousel, and then up they go to the far side of the course where the horsepower really starts to kick in. So the full grid, Mari Boya and Esteban Masson on the front row of the starting grid. On the front row, then it is Bruno Del Pino along with Sebastian Øgaard that runs on the second row of the starting grid. And then the Mexican, Jose Garfias, who lines up on row 3, and he is alongside Javier Sagrera for the Palou Motorsport team. On the fourth row, it is Tazanapol Intrafivazak of Thailand alongside Daniel Nogales. And then we have Francesco Braschi lining up alongside the Canadian, Nick Gilks, who is there in P10. David Morales in his first race weekend of the season in 11th position on the grid alongside the very talented Moroccan ace Suleiman Zanfari. And then Jessica Rasquedo for the GMS team. It used to be Han Chen Yu's own playground, GMS, but this weekend, now Dan Mavlutiov and Jessica Karashkedo Jr. have crept into the GRS team in their green bullets. Alongside Karashkedo, we have Miron Pingazov. And then on the 8th row of the starting grid, it is Dan Mavlutiov in the second GRS car, alongside Georgios Makogiannis, the Greek driver. And then at the back of the grid, it is Jorge Campos and Sebastian Gravlund, who didn't have a great qualifying session in session 2 at all, and therefore is going to have to try and fight his way forward with a big disadvantage to make up. So as the contenders are getting ready for another exciting battle out there, great to have so many of you watching along in this second race of the day. It was a bit of a stop-start race this morning with the wet conditions causing a safety car start, and then we had 2 more safety car periods. But as you can see, there is no safety car to be seen this time, as Marty Boyer and Esteban Masson are going to get to start this race from the front row of the grid. The fans are out in force for their favourite drivers. Do comment and watch along and see who it is that is going to emerge victorious. Can Marty Boyer win his 4th race of the season in 6 starts, or is Esteban Masson going to continue to extend his advantage up at the front? And if either of them has a problem, then it's going to be Bruno Del Pino, Sebastian Ogier, Jose Garfias or Javier Sagrera that could pick up the pieces. It's going to be a really exciting battle for all of the contenders. Apparently 2 of the cars are already under investigation for practice starts. That's the 99 of Jose Garfias and Bruno Del Pino in the MP as well. But we'll go into the race. The lights come on. When they go out, we'll be racing at Zandvoort. Let's race in the Netherlands. A great start from Marty Boyer, a better start from Esteban Masson. He's already going to draw level and take the lead on the run into Tarzan. Brilliant start from the Frenchman. So Masson gets through on the inside of Marty Boyer. He drifts wide though. Marty Boyer can get back alongside him as they come off the turn, and Masson pulls across. Marty Boyer cannot retaliate just yet. And as the drivers work their way through the first few corners, it is no problem at all for Esteban Masson to lead Marty Boyer. But Boyer is going to try and snap back at him as the MP Quintet charges after the race leader in the Campos, and Esteban Masson climbs the hill up in the lead of the race. And side by side we've got 2 of the MP drivers further back going wheel to wheel. That is probably Jose Garfias and Sebastian Ogier as they try to shake off Inter Fivazak, who seems to have made a brilliant start in front of Javier Sagrera in the Palou Motorsport car. So as the drivers work their way up to turn 10 and turn 11, the first one in shot is Esteban Masson. The Frenchman in the Campos works his way forward. And then in second place, it is Marty Boyer. That is the fast-starting Tazanapol into Fivazak. The tyre driver really starting to work his way through the field, and he's up to 5th position already. So a very positive start. But it looks to me as though 2 of the MP Motorsport drivers are already under investigation for practice starts. That's a big lunge up the inside from one of the Campos cars, trying to take on the Palou. I think that might be Braschi and Nogales going wheel to wheel. So as they come off the turn, that's one of the GRS cars. I think that must be Jesse Kalashkado trying his best to move away from Pingazov and Dan Mavlytyov. So as the drivers come through at the end of the first flying lap, it is Esteban Masson who leads from Marty Boyer. Then it's Ogier who's actually into 3rd position in front of Garfias. So Bruno Del Pino getting a very slow start down into 6th position. Then Sagrera, Braschi, Nogales down into the first corner. Is everybody going to make it through Tarzan? No, there's contact. There was a spinner back there at the first corner. And facing the wrong way, we've got 2 cars. One of them is David Morales in the DriveX car. And is that his teammate that's gone with him? We need to see the second car. One of the Palous managing to recover after an incident there. Didn't quite make out who it was that's rejoined at the back of the field in the GRS. I think it might be the 13 that has recovered in the fray. So we've got 2 cars off at the first corner, and it is the DriveX teammates. That is very embarrassing indeed, as Nick Gilks and David Morales clatter into each other on the first turn. No sign of the safety car as yet though, so I think they've been able to get away from the scene relatively unscathed, although that is a rather unfortunate situation for the drivers. I wouldn't want to be back in the awning later trying to explain that one. The cardinal sin in motor racing is taking out your teammate, and unfortunately the 2 drivers have done that rather unceremoniously. A nice little seagull invading our pictures there, getting very close to our camera lens. He obviously wants to go faster than the cars out there on the course. So Masson, Boyer, Ogier, Garfias, Inter Fivazak, Del Pino, Sagrera, Braschi, Nogales and Pingazov. Because obviously we had David Morales and Nick Gilks tagging into each other as they fly through the final turn, the Ari Leyendag Bocht. And across the line, no problems for Masson and Boyer. They are settling into a nice rhythm. Ogier just keeping it together in 3rd position. From Garfias, Inter Fivazak and Del Pino. Now if it stays like this, it is going to be an extension of the championship lead for Esteban Masson up to 37 points at the halfway point in the season. It's pretty much a fairy tale for the Frenchman if he can keep this together. It's one thing to win both the races at Aragon when your main championship rival isn't there, but to do it when he is there, that really is a statement of intent from Esteban Masson. Now we're going to see a replay of what happened, I think, with the DriveX cars. Diving into the first corner, and unfortunately that looked like a little bit too much eagerness from Gilks to get through on the inside of David Morales, and I think Miron Pingazov was the one who dropped all the way to the back of the field behind Dan Mavlytyov. So it was Miron Pingazov in the Palou that dropped in behind the GRS of the British driver Dan Mavlytyov. So they continue on at the front end of the field, Esteban Massot and Mauri Boya. No problems at all for the two championship contenders. Sebastian Huguet continuing to pick up good points here in 4th position, but the Mexican driver, Jose Garfias, looking pretty good in 4th in front of Tzanopol Indrafivazak from Thailand. And then it is the Spanish youngster Bruno Del Pino looking good to win the rookie event. And behind him in the rookie category we have Dan Nogales in 2nd, and the lovable young Moroccan Suleiman Zanfari. Bit of a history maker, young Zanfari, back in 2019 when Charles Leclerc announced he was going to have his own karting chassis with the Birolak Group. The first driver in the world ever to win a race on a Charles Leclerc chassis was Suleiman Zanfari when he won in the Dubai O-Plate all the way back in 2019. So Zanfari has been very fast in karts, and he's very fast in single-seaters too. So here comes the squabble of cars. Garfias, Indrafivazak and Del Pino. In the background, I think I saw Braschi trying to make the pit there to go past Javier Segrera in the Palou. So that'll be interesting to see how they continue on. They come up and over the top of the crest. And the top two, Massot and Boya, are stretching out the lead. They are going half a second quicker than everybody else in this race at the very early stages. So it doesn't look as though Massot and Boya are going to be troubled by anybody, unless there are problems. Now, no surprises. The incident between Jilks and Morales is under investigation by the officials. Both drivers have managed to get going again, fortunately. But it's definitely looking to be a pretty tricky situation for the contenders at the tail end of the field, because they have already lost quite a significant amount of time to the race leaders. But this is the battle for 3rd still. Huguet, Garfias, Indrafivazak, Del Pino. In the background, that looks like Segrera having held on in front of Francesco Braschi, with Dan Nogales there in 9th place. A little bit more time to make up for the Campos driver, Suleiman Zanfari, and then Jessica Rashkeda for GRS, and then Jorge Campos ahead of Georgios Markogiannis, Dan Mavlytyov, Miron Pingazov, and a long way back after their earlier problems, Nick Jilks and David Morales. But look at the leading two. They have absolutely disappeared from the rest of the fray. They have opened up a sizable gap, 3.8 seconds between Massot in the lead and Huguet in 3rd position now. But Taz Indrafivazak got a brilliant podium this morning. He wants another one in this second race. So he's really starting to push it to close up and put pressure on Jose Garfias as they work their way through. It's obviously going to be an interesting point of the lap, this, as the drivers continue to work their way through the course. You've obviously got to make sure that you look after the car in that opening section, and then this is where the throttle really starts to kick in, and the drivers really start to feel the G-forces at this point on the course as they go up along the Robert Schlottermacher Bocht, and then through Schlievelach, and then through Masters, and then up to turns 9 and 10, through the long flowing right, and then in through the long flowing left. So fabulous situation for the contenders for 3rd position. It all just depends on who is going to get the best of it at this particular point. Then they go down the straight, and leading up to the Hans Ernst Bocht, which is very tight indeed, through the right-hander and then through the left. Dips in very precariously through there. And then you come up to the Kumho corner. And then there is a sizable gap back to Segrera and Braschi now as well, who are dueling for 7th and 8th positions. But the battle for 3rd place now makes its way through Arie Luyendyk, named after the Indy 500 winner from the Netherlands, and down the main straight we go up towards Tarzan, and there is a big battle coming towards us as Indrafivazak tries to out-sprint in Garfias. Garfias locks up big time into Tarzan. Surely he's going to overshoot, and Indrafivazak will get the run on him on the exit. No, he doesn't. Very impressive from Garfias to keep Indrafivazak at bay. So as they climb up through Gerlach and then up towards Hugenholtz, it's a big run wide there from Indrafivazak. He almost cannons into the barrier there. Manages to catch it through the carousel at Hugenholtz, and then up Hunsrück, and then up towards Rob Schlottermacher corner. So Indrafivazak is now falling into the clutches here of the 6th place man, Bruno Del Pino. So this is definitely not working out in Indrafivazak's favour on this particular lap. And how about that? 21 minutes to go, not a single safety car. We had 3 this morning, and touch wood, we don't have any at this moment in time. 21 minutes plus the additional lap before we can get to the checkered flag. But certainly Masson versus Boyer seems pretty straightforward between the two championship contenders. But Ugyar, Garfias, Intervivazak and Delpino are battling away for the final spot on the podium for the time being. Then in 7th place it is Sagrera in front of Francesco Braschi. And then the battles will continue further back as well. But certainly at this moment in time it is all looking pretty rosy for Esteban Masson. He can't put a wheel wrong at Zandvoort, despite the fact he already has. He dropped it in the first race, lost 6 positions, and has managed to fight his way back into prominence. And here he is, leading by example at the front end of the field. Murray Boyer's brilliant pole position has not really been able to convert into anything other than a chase for the victory rather than actually taking the lead. So Murray Boyer is 1.2 seconds back now from Masson, but that's a lot of time to make up. There is your race leader, the Frenchman Esteban Masson, who has just banged in a 1:33.9, but the fastest lap of the race comes from his main rival, Murray Boyer, the very talented Spanish racer, who was national karting champion several times over. He won the Ayama Euro Winter Cup back in 2018 on his home circuit at Valencia, and he has just been climbing the ranks ever since. He only just recently left the Formula Regional World to get into FIA Formula 3 and Euro Cup 3 this year, and a lot of people are touting Murray Boyer as Spain's next big Grand Prix racing talent. 19.5 minutes to go. A lot of people would tip Esteban Masson for a similar feat for France as he continues his run. So as we complete the 7th lap under green flag conditions this time, it is Esteban Masson in front of Murray Boyer. You've got to wait another 5 seconds before Sébastien Hugard turns up. That shows you how quickly Masson and Boyer are pushing each other. They're in the 33s, 1 minute 33 seconds for the lap, whilst everybody else is in the 1 minute 35s. So Masson and Boyer are absolutely a class ahead of the rest of the competitors here. Meanwhile, Francesco Braschi has got past Javier Sagrera to move up into 7th position. So a very solid effort from the Spaniard at this moment in time. And as they work their way to the braking zone, Tizanopol Intervivazak is still trying to get one over on the Mexican Jose Antonio Garfias in the MP Motorsport car. I do wonder if Taz Intervivazak is just working the tyres a little bit too eagerly. You don't change tyres in Euro Cup 3. It is a sprint race all the way to the finish line. So you only get half an hour plus the additional lap. And whatever happens, happens in that time. So Masson from Boyer, then another 6 seconds back now. They really are storming away from Sébastien Hugard in 3rd. And then it is Garfias, Intervivazak and Delpino. 7th place now for Francesco Braschi, the man who won the first race of the season back in Spa. And then Javier Sagrera, Dan Nogales and Suleiman Zanfari. Jorge Campos in front of Jessica Rasquedo, Georgios Markogiannis and Miron Pingazov ahead of Dan Mavlitiov, Nick Gilks and David Morales. So everybody that took to the start of this race has actually been able to come through to complete the first few laps. For those who are wondering, the one driver that is missing, well, that is Sebastian Gravland, who had problems in qualifying and has now not been able to start the race. So big problems for the man who was in the top 10 in race 1 and claimed a rookie podium in 3rd of the rankings of the rookies. But now Masson is starting to open up the taps a little bit to Murray Boyer. The gap is now 2.3 seconds, so he's gained a second over the last 2 tours. Meanwhile, Ugyar is in front of Garfias. Is Intervivazak going to make the lunge into Tarzan? Way too far back, but he might be able to catch Garfias out by spending too long checking his mirrors. So still a good little duel between these two as they work their way through Gerlach and up to Hugenholtz. Up at the carousel and charging back up on the power through Hunzerug. So this is going to be where Intervivazak gets his opportunity to charge after Jose Garfias for 4th position. 16.5 minutes still to go in this second race of the day. But it's definitely looking like it's only 3rd position that's up for grabs in this one. So the 99 and the 6, that is Garfias and the 6 of Bruno Del Pino, they will be investigated after the race. So there's no point throwing penalties at people now, but there could be some problems coming the way of Garfias and Del Pino doing a practice start before the race began. So they're under investigation and they may lose their current positions, which at the moment would be 4th and 6th. So they've got to be very careful. And obviously they want to try and get into a position and stretch away as much of a gap as possible in case there is a penalty. So Ugya, Garfias, into Vivasac and Del Pino. That's the battle for third position at the moment. Look back and there is Francesco Braschi ahead of Javier Segrera and Dan Nogales. And in the background should be the Campos of Suleiman Zanfari, although he is a little way behind now. He has dropped back to the tune of 7.4 seconds off the tail of Dan Nogales. And then it is Campos, Garashkedo, Markogiannis, Pingazov, Mavlytyov, Jilks and David Morales. So all 17 drivers that started the race are still going. There is the 28 of Francesco Braschi, just trying to stretch away from Segrera and Dan Nogales. They work their way through Tarzan. And at the end of this race, we are going to have 8 races completed and another 8 to go. Obviously, when they come back from the summer break, we have got races taking place in Jerez de la Frontera and then at Estoril, as a bit of a mistake there for the 5 of Dan Mavlytyov. That's going to put David Morales up on the front end. But yeah, the 4 weekends to come are Jerez, Estoril, Valencia and the Catalunya circuit just outside the city of Barcelona. So still very competitive at this stage of the season and still an awful lot to do. Still the battles rage in Euro Cup 3 into the second half of this race. Palou, Campos, GRS, Palou. That is how it currently works out at the moment in the middle of the gaggle. So there is a really exciting battle continuing on and up onto the grass in the GRS. Goes Jesse Garashkedo, going to go wheel to wheel there as he continues to try and hold his own station ahead of Suleiman Zanfari. Up in front is Dan Nogales. Zanfari trying to hold the position, and not only will he get the opportunity to go through on the inside of Jesse Garashkedo, but Markogiannis and Pingazov are trying to work their way forward as well. So they've got to be very careful. They don't want to lose too much ground here. But there is still a lot of drivers trying to get the overtaking move here on Jesse Garashkedo in the GRS car. They go up Adi Lyondike through the banking, and it's all looking pretty neat and tidy for the race leaders. But up in the middle of the field, we can already see plenty of gaggles of drivers battling wheel to wheel. The Palou teammates are going to go to battle into turn 1 if we're not careful. They both lock up. And off the road. Oh, well, that was a big overshoot then, unfortunately, for one of the Palou drivers. I think that would have been Georgios Markogiannis. So Georgios Markogiannis, and he went off there this morning, if you remember, and that's what cost him the final point in the championship race in that particular event. So I'm afraid Georgios Markogiannis has dropped his car off the road, and even David Morales was able to get through on that occasion. So as everybody now recovers and pushes on, 13 minutes still to go here in race 2 of Euro Cup 3, this new championship for the 2023 season. And that absence now from Georgios Markogiannis has definitely tightened things up elsewhere. So in the midfield, we still have Zanfari in front of Garashkedo, then Pingazov and Jilks, and then it's Mavlytyov, Morales, and we also have Markogiannis down at the back of the grid. So as the drivers continue to find the most that they can out of these cars, apparently there is a turn 1 incident under investigation, and that will take place after the race. That is between Braschi and Segrera. Now here's the mistake from Markogiannis. Back end of the car just drifts into the Tarzan gravel. Thousands of racing cars have ended up there. So it's not exactly too exclusive a club, but it's certainly cost Georgios Markogiannis any crack of a points finish for the time being. 12 minutes still to go here at Zandvoort. But for the leaders, Masson and Boyer, they are basically just trading lap times in their bid to go for the victory in this second race of the weekend. Mari Boyer desperately hoping that he can find his way further forward to continue this duel out on the circuit. But the gap between Masson and Boyer is just 1.9 seconds now. So Boyer has definitely tightened that gap up a little bit in the hope that in the latter stages of this race he'll get another chance to storm up the inside. And after the 2 brilliant weekend races that we had at Monza last time out, where we didn't have a single yellow flag, never mind a single safety car, this race has had a couple of moments already, but everybody is keeping it safe and sound for the time being. So Esteban Masson in front of Mari Boya. Then it is Sebastian Irgal, Jose Antonio Garfias, Tazo de Vivazac and Bruno Del Pino. Then Braschi, Sagrera, Nogales, Campos, Zanfari, Karashkedo, Pingasov, Jilks, Mavlitiov, Morales and Georgios Markogiannis, the Greek driver, bringing up the tail of the field. Everybody's still circulating. So just over 10 minutes plus the additional bonus lap to go. And there is the battle for 11th position. This is just outside the points. So Zanfari, Karashkedo, Pingasov and Jilks. 4 drivers as they fly flat out through the Ari Leindijk corner. They're in 15th position. Daniel Mavlutiov in his GRS is just trying to stay in touch with them at the moment. Here comes the battle, challenging down the straight. Pingasov is going to try and out-drag Karashkedo through Tarzan as they go wheel to wheel. Is there going to be enough room for both of them? There certainly is. And Miron Pingasov, what a brilliant move from him. As Miron Pingasov gets the move done there on Jesse Karashkedo. So the GRS driver moves further forward and that puts him into 12th position. That puts him into 11th position for the time being. Apparently there's been an issue somewhere out in the course for Jorge Campos, which has moved everybody up another position. You've got to wait and wait and wait until they get up to the top of the hill. So certainly Masson and Boya from Ugar, Garfias, Interfivazac and Del Pino. That's the top 6. Then you've got to look back to find Braschi, Sagrera, Nogales and Zanfari. Let's have a look at the replay of Pingasov going right round the outside of Jesse Karashkedo. That is brave from Miron Pingasov, but he clearly had good confidence in the car, getting decent traction out of the turn. He's fully compliant with his team's strategy choice, but he also wants to be a factor of it. Now, Interfivazac going for 4th position here on the inside of Garfias. Can he finish the job? Bit of a lock-up from further back as well, as Bruno Del Pino wanted to get himself into the mix here. Thought, well, hang on, those two are battling. Maybe I can get into 4th position. This is great news for Sebastian Irgal, who is now safe and sound in 3rd position. Essentially the rest of the battles in this race are for 4th position downwards. So Masson leads Boya, Irgal on his own now in 3rd position. Then it's Interfivazac, Garfias and Del Pino squabbling for 4th place. And there are big points on offer, don't forget for that. As running wide, that is Garfias. So Garfias runs wide, and that's enough for the young talent Bruno Del Pino to move forward and get into 5th position overall. He's looking good for another rookie win, but he really wants to do it where it counts. He doesn't just want to look up and see himself on the lap charts up the front. He wants to know he's done the best possible chance of getting the win. So Garfias, having now fallen behind Interfivazac and Bruno Del Pino, this is going to be an interesting one for Garfias to fight back from. We thought he was out in race 1. It turned out he'd just been very cautious, very careful, kept it together and then rejoined on the restart. Smart work from the crew. 8 minutes to go. Esteban Masson and Mari Boya have stretched a long way out in front of the pack here. And when I say a long way out in front of the pack, I mean over a dozen seconds. That's how impressive it's been. Now this is a replay. Now that is where the overtake happened on Bruno Del Pino to get past Jose Antonio Garfias for 5th position. So Garfias is still there or thereabouts, but he's now running in P6 behind Interfivazac and Del Pino. That's really got to hurt, hasn't it, when you know that there might not be another opportunity to make the advantage count. He is certainly pushing it to the limit and thinking about it. So down to the flowing S's. This is where you get your most buzz. So as the drivers continue to battle away for position, you can see there that Bruno Del Pino is trying to shake off Garfias. Now something appears to have happened to Suleiman Zanfari. So Zanfari has dropped out of the top 3 of the rookie ranks. He is currently down in 11th position now. So something has happened to Suleiman Zanfari. I couldn't tell you what it was because I don't know what it was. But certainly the Moroccan has lost a fair chunk of time there, and including what looked like it was going to be the point for the Campos team there in 10th place. So 6.5 still to go. It's getting a little bit tight and tetchy in the mid-pack, isn't it? Zanfari hanging on in front of Karashkedo, Jilks and Mavlitiov, with Jorge Campos and David Morales not that far away. So you cannot afford to lose up for an instant, as in front of them, that's a lock-up from Daniel Nogales. who is still getting used to this car, don't forget. This might be his third start, but Rome wasn't built in a day. So now we're going to the closing stages of Euro Cup 3, race number 2 here from Circuit Zandvoort. I'm very impressed with the general racecraft of these cars. There was no single yellow flag period at any point during the course of the weekend. There were no double waved yellows either, and there was certainly no safety car to bring them back to where they were supposed to be. They did a fantastic job given the circumstances out there, and no matter what you say about this driver deserves this driver deserves that, it's the fact that they work so hard that breeds the results. And a big lock-up there from the 64, and they've both gone off the road. So Jesse Carrasquedo and Nick Gilks have both gone off the road. They both left their braking far too late. There was an off at turn 13 as well. I think it's Jorge Campos who has retired from the race on the final part of the course. And despite that little trip up there from Carrasquedo and Gilks, both drivers have managed to rejoin the circuit, albeit down at the back. So that's definitely going to give plenty of decisive opportunities the way of the drivers around them. Certainly Zuleman Janfari is going to be a little bit more relieved, knowing he's only got to pass one more car to get the points, and safety car is out, and I think that is why, because Jorge Campos' car is in a dangerous position on the edge of the Ari Leindijk corner. Well, it was great while it lasted. Here's the lockup that puts the two cars battling away for position off the road. Gilks had got the move done, but he just didn't have the turn in because he'd locked his tyres and brakes up big time, and obviously trying to avoid the incident. Jesse Carrasquedo also drifted off the road, but this is a separate incident. Now this is Jorge Campos. Whoa! So he's actually washed out there on the penultimate turn, and there is his car parked in the middle of the tyre barrier. So considering we've got 4 minutes to go and that car is in a precarious position, this race could end under the safety car. It's not guaranteed, but that would certainly be good news for Esteban Masson, as he certainly doesn't have to think about anything in particular after the thrilling challenges of race 1 yesterday. So race 1 today, I should say. I do apologise. So the safety car is out on track, and it's going to bunch the field up. Nick Gilks has come into the pits, by the way, as the rest of the cars continue on in fine style. Masson, Boyer, Ergar, Interfivizak, Del Pino and Garfias is the top 6. Then Francesco Braschi, Xavier Guerrera, Dan Nogales and Miron Pingazov. So the safety car being out on the course, we don't know exactly how long it's going to be, as we can see the team at Baloo Motorsport tending to Nick Gilks' machine. So a fabulous performance from Esteban Masson up in the front, and the team are getting now to Jorge Campos, who's on the final turn. Looks like Nick Gilks might not be going much further in this one either, as the mechanics are not in a rush to send him back out onto the course. They'd only do that if they were fighting for a position and the gap between them all was fairly marginal. But still, the pit crew go to work. So we're under safety car proceedings, and looking at the fact that we've got 2.5 minutes to go, red flag is being called. So the red flag is being called, and that means that the Euro Cup 3 second race is being stopped. Now we have managed to complete 75% distance of the race, so I would suspect that's going to be red flag and checkered flag. I don't think we're going to restart this one. So the cars will come into the pits, and I think that's going to be game over, you know. So the safety car brings them into the pits. What is the point of restarting for a 2.5 minute dash? I have a feeling that the race is going to be halted here. We'll wait for official confirmation, of course. But there is a red flag there for the car that is stranded up at the final turn at Ari Leindijk corner. That is Jorge Campos, having had a very strange moment, but the team obviously getting together and realising they can't move it from its current position without a race stoppage. Now I don't see the checkered flag going out. There we go, there's the confirmation. Session will not be restarted, and that means that Esteban Masson has made it 2 wins out of 2 in fantastic fashion. So it is an amazing result for Esteban Masson this weekend, as he takes his 3rd win in race 1, he takes his 4th win in race 2, and he goes into the summer break with a whopping 37-point advantage over Mari Boya. That is absolutely terrific going into the summer break. And it really does look as though Esteban Masson has already got himself to a point where he is one hand on the championship trophy. But it has now been confirmed to us that with the incident that took out Jorge Campos, and they're going to need a long recovery job, essentially the race is not going to restart. And I have to say, after the recent events at Spa-Francorchamps, that is not a sensible decision. That is a totally mature one. So Esteban Masson, Mari Boya and Sébastien Ogier will grace the podium this time. Tazan de Vivazak will finish up in 4th place, and then it will be Bruno Del Pino and Jose Garfias ahead of Francesco Barasci, Javier Segurera, Dan Nogales, and the final point going the way of Miron Pingazov. But it is a double rookie victory as well for Bruno Del Pino. My goodness me, what a tough race this one turned out to be. But for Esteban Masson, it was a bit of a masterclass, wasn't it? There's the provisional classification. Mari Boya in second behind Esteban Masson, then Sébastien Ogier, Tazan de Vivazak, Bruno Del Pino, Jose Garfias, and then the point scorers will be Francesco Barasci, Javier Segurera, Dan Nogales and Miron Pingazov, ahead of Suleiman Zanfari and Jesse Karashkedo. Then it will be Nick Jilks, Dan Mavlitiov, David Morales, Georgios Markogiannis, and the one retirement from the race, that was of course Jorge Campos. So we get to look over the highlights of Euro Cup 3 Race 2. It was a pretty serene race up until the point when the safety car was called, but that is exactly the kind of racing we love at Zandvoort. So here are the battles out there on the course, the highlights from a fabulous race out on the circuit. There's the 55 of Miron Pingazov getting himself into dire straits. Esteban Masson, though, managing to work his way forward past Mari Boya and have a terrific race. We saw some great duels between Ogier, Vivazak, Del Pino and Garfias. On this occasion it was the latter driver that lost out the most. There is the GRS of Jesse Karashkedo, just trying to show people where he thinks the line is. And up to the inside line, a bit of a lock up there. And it was always pretty tricky once Georgios Markogiannis went off the road. That cost him any chance of points. So a pretty tricky race all round then. Fortunately, of the 17 drivers that started the race, 16 of them were able to bring it home for the checkered flag. The man who brought out the red flag is the number 26 of Jorge Campos, who unfortunately drifted off at the Ari Lyndike corner on the outside line. And with that barrier, it is particularly tricky to repair it in a short space of time. So the Red Bull organisation deciding, no, we're just going to keep it together here. And there was a spinner at the first corner as well. So there really was something for everybody in this second Euro Cup 3 race. The duel between Pingazov and Karashkedo, that was very entertaining to watch indeed, and Miron Pingazov has just bought himself a one-way ticket to the points table. So they can be very happy with what they've achieved here as well. But the duel for the victory, Esteban Masson versus Mari Boya. The duel for third between Ogier, Vivazak, Del Pino and Garfias. So exciting to watch. So many times we thought one driver would have it over the other. But then Ogier was able to open up the taps and disappear in front of Vivazak from Thailand and Del Pino and Jose Garfias. They both speak fluent Spanish because of course Bruno Del Pino resides in Spain. Jose Garfias is Mexican by origin. So some good performances then in Euro Cup 3. Unfortunately, the incident that brought out the red flags was Jorge Campos going clean off the road on the run to Ari Lyndike Bocht, and that's where the race has ended. But for Esteban Masson, in front of Mari Boya and Sébastien Ogier, he can be very happy with the way things played out. It didn't all go well for everybody, as Nick Jilks managed to catch out the highly rated Dan Mavlitiov, it turned out to be in the end. So some great racing at Zandvoort. And don't forget, folks, that at the end of the podium ceremonies here, we're going to take a 8-week lunch break, essentially, a nice summer holiday, where the drivers can do a little bit of R&R, where the teams can get themselves set up for the next chapter in the story. And as we're under full course yellows, I think we are going to go straight to the podium. I was going to say we're going to go racing this time, but obviously I corrected myself and reminded myself that no underage youngsters can quaff a little bit of that champagne that they will spray in a bit. So a fabulous end to the race for some, perhaps not for others. Nick Gilks not getting any favours or luck on this particular occasion, but the red flags come out as a result of Jorge Campos' incident at the final turn, and that was enough for Esteban Masson to steal the win over Mari Boya and Sebastian Ogier. The leading rookie is Bruno Del Pino in front of Dan Nogales and Miron Pingazov. So the highlights from a pretty intense and very challenging Euro Cup 3 second race. It was great to see everybody really giving it the best shot, but the race is now officially finished, and so the drivers can emerge. A massive thank you to all of the marshals and the officials. They kept us safe all weekend long as well. And we will have one final podium ceremony, and that is for the overall podium, and then of course for the rookie podium as well. So the championship lead is now 37 points for Esteban Masson in front of Mari Boya. That really does give you a bit of an indication as to how big a disparity there is. Monza has won. Monza was the scene of a couple of different winners. Obviously we had Mari Boya taking both the wins overall, but then there were a win apiece, I think, in the rookie championship as well. The battle has been pretty exciting all the way throughout in this 2023 season, but of course we now have the prospect of a very juicy second half of the year that includes 4 fabulous race circuits to come. We have Jerez, we have Estoril, we have Valencia, and then we have the Catalunya circuit in Barcelona to wrap up this season. We don't go racing again in Euro Cup 3 until September. But boy, has this been entertaining. Mari Boya just walking away from the scene of the Palou Motorsport car, maybe hoping to glean some precious data and some precious information. Miron Pingazov only just managing to get into the top 10. So he'll be hoping for a little bit more from the karting, I think, as well, later this year. So as everybody congratulates Esteban Masson, it has been a thrilling weekend in Euro Cup 3, and now we are one step closer to knowing the identity of the driver in the mix for the title, and that is the Frenchman Esteban Masson. So it really is going to be an exciting challenge for all of the contenders, but there is more still to come from them. We have 8 races still to go, a pair of races apiece at Jerez, Estoril, Valencia and Catalunya. And there is the damage to Jorge Campos' car. There is the evidence that it definitely wouldn't have been able to go any further, even if he had been able to get the engine going again, which at the time he obviously did not. So the drivers now finishing up in fine style, but it's the number 9 Campos that is the best car and driver combination in the Euro Cup in 2023. He's going to be able to finish the job and take the title. That's anybody's guess. Look at the jubilation from Esteban Masson from the Campos Racing team. They're a real family, these guys. They love their motorsport, and it is great to see the Campos alumni making sure that Alex feels like he has done a very good job indeed. So as we prepare for the final podium ceremony of the weekend here at the Circuit Zandvoort, it's a very deserving pair of victories for Esteban Masson. Unfortunate in race 1 for Mari Boya, but he certainly brought it back to second position in race 2. And also, a bit of credit I would like to give out going the way of Sebastian Ogier. He had a 3rd and a 2nd over the course of this weekend. So the young Danish talent is definitely one to watch for in years to come. He certainly has a very positive outlook for how the team is going to be created and how the team dynamic is not going to be challenged over the course of the next few races. So we're now waiting for the drivers to come out onto the podium. So we're now waiting for the drivers to come forward, and we'll finish off in fine style for the podium ceremony. Esteban Masson will clinch the winner's trophy for his 4th victory of the season in front of Mari Boya and Sebastian Ogier. There is the Euro Cup 3 podium. Hopefully the drivers will head to it fairly soon. And now we're going to be in a position to celebrate with the drivers as we gear up ready for an excellent closure to the first half of the season. And then, of course, the racers can continue their fight when we get to the next round of the championship in September, when we go to the brilliant Circuito de la Jerez de la Frontera, which is the scene, of course, where the 1997 Formula One World Championship was decided so dramatically between Jacques Villeneuve and Michael Schumacher. So that'll be a fantastic location for the Euro Cup 3 Championship to continue. Here come the drivers to the rostrum. Third position for Sébastien Ogier. A solid weekend of points for him. And a great result for Marty Boyer after the disappointment of race 1. Now he bounces back to the podium for race 2. A good result for the MP crew. But your winner for the second time, Esteban Masson. He drove beautifully this morning. He drove beautifully again this afternoon. And once more we're going to hear La Marseillaise out over the circuit here at Zandvoort in deference to the race winner, Esteban Masson, for the Campos Racing Team. Great work from Esteban Masson. So as La Marseillaise rings out over Zandvoort, I know a very happy Frenchman in the Euro Cup 3 rankings. He's done a very good job all through the weekend. The trophies are given out to Denmark's Sébastien Ogier and to Spain's Marty Boyer as they finish third and second. Still good points for the championship fight. It's not over yet for Marty Boyer. He may be second in the standings, having lost a lot of points to Esteban Masson on this occasion, but he will not give up. There's still 8 races to go, having already had 8 of them in this championship fight. But for the Frenchman Esteban Masson, that is his 4th win of the season, and he takes a 37-point lead in the Drivers' Championship as a result of his renewed confidence. Marty Boyer having already taken 3 of those, and 4 going the way of Esteban Masson. The other race winner, Francesco Braschi. So at the halfway stage of the season, Masson has a 37-point advantage over the Spanish driver Marty Boyer. But after 8 races, it is Masson versus Boyer for the title, that is for sure. And they're going to keep this fabulous duel for the supremacy in the first ever Euro Cup 3 season very much in earnest. So now the drivers can continue. And it looks as though Esteban Masson is going to finish in style, but not with a spray. He obviously decides he wants to share that one with the team. So they're going to have some fun. The mechanic is going to have some fun instead, because he doesn't get to do this particularly often. So a great victory for the Campos Racing Team. They can be very happy indeed with that. And so now the Campos Racing Team not only have a win in their pocket for the 4th time in 2023, but they also have a fabulous amount of points to take with them to the next stage of the competition. In fact, of course, they've had 5 wins this year, haven't they, because of Francesco Braschi. So we'll finish up with the rookie podium, and then we will take our summer break, where all of a sudden the drivers will get themselves ready for another spirited day at the office in Jerez de la Frontera in September, when the championship renews. So 3rd position for the Palou Motorsport driver Miron Pingazov in the rookie standings. He comes through for 3rd place on this occasion. 2nd will go the way of Daniel Nogales. And then the man on the top step of the rookie podium will be Spain's Bruno Del Pino. 3 Spanish drivers, 3 different teams represented on the rookie podium. Really great to see just how eagerly and how excitedly the competitive nature of the drivers in Euro Cup 3 has already come to prominence. So we're just waiting to hear Miron Pingazov be announced to the crowd, and then he can head his way onto the podium to collect his rookie trophy. If you've only just joined us, you've missed a fabulous race weekend. You can go and watch it all back, as well as the first 3 races of the season. You can also go and watch them back from Spa, from Aragon, and from Monza, as well as the 2 races from here in Zandvoort. Miron Pingasov for Palou, Dan Nogales from DriveX, and at the top spot, Bruno Del Pino for MP Motorsport. They pick up the rookie 3, 2 and 1, and a fabulous run in particular for Bruno Del Pino of Spain. And the MP Motorsport crew will be very happy indeed with that victory. So we will leave it to the drivers in the Junior Trophy. The conclusion of this fabulous weekend in Euro Cup 3 is that now, despite a shortened race distance and a rain-affected one in race 1, we finish off here at Zandvoort at the halfway point with Esteban Masson, championship leader, 37 points in front of his nearest opponent, Mari Boya. The likes of Francesco Braschi and Sebastian Ogier are clinging at straws in the hope that there will still be a part of the championship fight going to the 5th race weekend of the Euro Cup 3 season, which takes place on the 3rd weekend of September. So it really is going to be a fantastic end to a brilliant race weekend. So as the rookies will have a quiet celebration down in the podium, Bruno Del Pino certainly wants to get busy with the fizzy. So they will enjoy their evening here at Zandvoort, and we will take a summer break. Join us again in September when the Euro Cup 3 season returns and we head to Jerez de la Frontera. From Lara Andrea and myself, Jake Sanson, a massive thank you to all those of you who watched this weekend. If you missed any of Euro Cup 3, you can go back and watch it all on the YouTube channel. And of course, don't forget the Driven to Greatness podcast that you can download each time we go racing on Spotify. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here at Zandvoort. We'll be back in Jerez de la Frontera in September. Bye for now.